Today, I'm gonna share a book to you that I have just read last December. The title of the book is Marvino's League of Superheroes, written by Ray Rivalcosico and published by Adorno House in 2013. On the same year, it won first place in Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature. The book talks about a young boy named Marvino who could not afford to buy a superhero action figure. But instead of complaining, he became contented on keeping a notebook full of drawings of superheroes that he liked and the ones that he made up. One day, while passing through the toy museum, Marvino met an old man who later on made this drawing an inspiration for the new superheroes collection of the toy museum. I really like the great graphics and illustrations shown in this book and on how the author incorporated information of some events and persons in the Philippine history. I would highly recommend this book for those people who are currently having challenges in life. May this story inspires us to live another day. Just like Marvino, may we realize that it is okay to lose battles. It's God's way of making us stronger and giving us a meaningful and magnificent life. So, that's it for now. Thank you and stay safe, Akinyang!
Hello, Seth here, and this is an awesome book I just read. The Lightning Thief, a 377-page fictional book, first in the Percy Jackson The Olympian series written by Rick Riordan. His son was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia and encouraged him to do it. It was published in 2005 by Disney Hyperion. I chose this book because I got hooked at first sight. It made me love reading even more and gave me good laughs. Percy is a 12-year-old boy who later discovered he was a demigod and son of Poseidon. He went to Camp Half-Blood and met new friends there. The main characters, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, are brave, smart, honest, loyal, funny, nature, and animal lover. Percy loves music, food, and blue things just like me. I think we can really get along. The book did not use any inappropriate language but helped me improve my vocabulary. It made learning Greek mythology fun. We just need to have a little guidance from our parents since this is a fantasy book about Greek gods and not to conflict with our religion. This is a must-read book for kids like me. I highly recommend this to my classmates and friends and even adults too. It's very entertaining and educational. It teaches us important lessons. My favorite part was when Percy rescued his mom from the underworld, which shows how much he loves her. We should be like him who would do everything for our family. He was also very loyal to his friends. He did not care about being powerful. He always chooses to do the right thing. Like him, we can be a hero in our own little way, by always willing to help. Thank you and have fun reading!
Hey, I am Renzo Gumangan, and today I'm going to be doing my book show and tell on the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Specifically, this book from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is the special cheesiest edition. Now, basically, the book features your average kid, our protagonist, Greg Heffley, through the first days of middle school, and basically struggling to fit in and get comfortable with the whole middle school thing. Now, the story features many different events that eventually leads to Greg being uncomfortable. Now, an example of that is basically when Greg Heffley dresses up as a singing tree in a play, which is The Wizard of Oz, and begins to get embarrassed by the audience or something. Another part is when he heard about this weird cheese touch thing. It's basically a worse version of your average tag. Basically, you get the cheese touch, you get no friends. Basically, the entire book features Greg Heffley being uncomfortable and complaining about school, and Well, a good thing though is that towards the end of the story, Greg Heffley does something great to his friend, Rowley, which basically did something disgusting to a certain piece of cheese, which was lying on the ground. Basically, the cheese that begins the cheese touch thing. So, basically, the entire plot of this book is Greg being uncomfortable about school and a lot of stuff, but does experience character development throughout the book. And towards the end of the story, he does something great and basically lives better, at least. So, anyways, that is my book show and tell. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, that's it. Bye.
I'm going to talk about The Return of the Young Prince by A.G. Romers. It is quite an old book that was released in 2008 and has 155 pages, not including the extras. The Return of the Young Prince is a tribute to The Little Prince, which was made by
Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
which was released in 1943. The story begins with our narrator, who finds our little prince, which was fast asleep. And with that, our narrator takes our prince on a journey. Throughout the journey, the prince slowly talks to our narrator about his adventures. Both of them tackle on life's most hardest problems, if not questions. What I really love about the story is seeing the little prince growing up and learning new lessons. It's like watching a flower bloom or a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. With that being said, our narrator also learned new lessons and some old lessons, thanks to the little prince. Because sometimes in life, when we grow up, we tend to forget the most simplest morals and lessons. One of the lessons that our narrator learned, and I also loved, is we shouldn't cling to the past or future, but live in the present. We should forget about having and dedicate ourselves into being. Because in the end, we can't go back to the past, nor control the future. What we can control is the present. Oh, and also, I would recommend this book to kids, teens, adults, to your grandparents, because no matter what age you are, you will find lessons that applies to all ages. Okay, bye.
It has always been amazing how the perfect balance between romance and supernatural can be the right equation to capture and tame a reader's imagination. This is what I have experienced upon reading one of the best-selling novels of all time, Twilight. Written by American novelist Stephenie Meyer, Twilight is a 5-part series of fantasy romance novels revolving around vampires. It tells the story of Isabella Swan, who became captivated by Edward Cullen, which is a 104-year-old vampire. This book, which is the first to the series, focused on building the character's identity and arcs, which made this book the best out of the other versions. I mean, in my opinion, of course. The unfolding of the whole Twilight verse in the book reminds me of how I started discovering my identity, which later on unfolded into many angles, some I did not even thought possible. If there is one thing that keeps me coming back into reading this book over and over again, it is not just about the exceptional build-up of characters, nor its interesting plot alone. It is more of how this fantasy-centered novel can have underlying concepts that reflects some of the modern-day issues that we have right now. For instance, the novel greatly talks about the idea of fluctuating feminism, which is evident in the relationship between Edward and Bella, which became a cautionary tale of unhealthy relationships. However, this changed as Bella became antagonistic about the idea of patriarchal system between the rivals Edward and Jacob. These qualities of this fantasy romance novel make it an amazing read not only for those teens that simply love reading romance with a mix of some werewolves and vampires, but also for those who are trying to discover more of today's literature and how it serves as a looking glass to current issues regardless of its genre.
The book that I have chosen for this is The First Bad Man by Miranda July. So this novel contains 276 pages in which the novel story is printed on. The book was published on January 2015, which was 6 years ago. The reason why I personally chose this book because it was one of the last novels that I have read before online classes started. One of the main characters in this novel is Cheryl Glickman. She believed that romances can span centuries and that a soul passes through their offspring. So, Cheryl, she works at a woman's self-defense class, which is a non-profit organization, and that she lives all by herself. And then, when her boss asks Cheryl if their 20-year-old daughter, Clee, would live with Cheryl into her house for a while, in which Cheryl's unconventional world explodes. So, one of the good attributes of this novel is that it is only a fictional story and that the characters' names are not real, but the life stories may be applicable to you or to me or anyone that could read this novel. So I would recommend this novel to those who like reading about a love story between two individuals, and that overall this book is worth reading, and that Miranda July has a lot of different novels that she has written, in which I would highly recommend. That is all. Thank you for listening to me, and I'll see you soon.
Good day everyone, and we are students from grade 11 St. Raymond, and here is our podcast. The title of our podcast is The Freebirds, and the theme of the podcast is Athenians Through the Looking Glass, Examining Society Through Literature. The name of our podcast is The Freebirds because of the chosen literature that we picked out. So, we each have a representative bird or type of bird that we chose in order to represent our character. So I am Austin, and I am the crow.
I am Ziraili, and my bird is the owl.
I'm Enrico, and my bird is the raven.
And I'm Michaelito Bongales, and my bird is Robin.
And I am Angelico Saturnino, and I am the sparrow.
We grouped together in order to read the poem of the great author Maya Angelou, which is entitled The Caged Bird. We are now going to read the poem to you. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream, till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky.
Bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing.
The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on a distant hill. For the caged bird sings of freedom.
The free bird of another, and the trade winds off through the sighing. The fat worms waiting on a dawn white lawn, and he names the sky his own.
But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on the nightmare's scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing.
The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. So this amazing poem was written by Maya Angelou, and she has many more other great works. So now, let us go through the sharing. So, we're going to answer the question, how can we relate this poem to the current time? In my opinion, this poem talks about a caged bird, and this caged bird represents us, the people, and especially during this pandemic, we are all stuck in our homes. We are derived of our freedom by the virus, and we become the caged bird. We sing for freedom, but still we cannot achieve it yet. But we still hope to achieve this freedom and keep on singing. So, the conclusion of my opinion is that the caged bird represents us and our cries for help during this pandemic.
What I believe that the poem's all about the freedom, because in my what I have known about Maya Angelou is that she had a very difficult life back then. So I think that this poem is a cry for freedom, a cry for her her want to live a better life that and is not subjected to cruelty and racism, and yes.
Moving on to Enrico, the Raven.
Just as what Austin said before, there's no denying that we are all basically caged birds nowadays in this time of pandemic, because we need to prevent the spread of this virus, and we need to keep in mind other people as well during these times. So, though people say that introverts are made for this, and being an introvert myself, I like being holed up alone and relaxing in my room, in my house. But sometimes it gets boring and lonely not being with other people, other than your family. And the technology that we are using now and the online content that we consume gets stale and not interesting. Sometimes we just need to go out and spend time with people, because the time we spend together with other people is really more valuable, really more precious than being alone. Also, there's a lot of things that I usually can do now, like going on long walks while listening to music, and basically just having the fresh air that Metro Manila can offer.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Michaelito, who is the Robin.
So we can relate it to our society in this time that there are two birds, okay, the free one and the one who is in the cage. So for me, the one who the first stanza, right, a free bird. So it pertains to the free bird. So we can compare it to the riches or the upper classes that they can go wherever they want, do whatever they want, and they don't get scolded or something like that. They are protected and they are free because so. And the other bird is the lower class or the poor people. They are tied and they are in cage. Basically, they are being controlled, so they don't have the power to do anything because they lack of power, and yeah, in today's society they don't have money. So yeah, that's the attack of the power.
Okay. Thank you so much, Robin. And let's move on to Jago, the Sparrow. Last but not the least.
This is my last answer. So I could relate on a cage bird that stands on the grave of dreams. So it means darkness for me. It is darkness where dreams, where shadows shouts on a nightmare scream means darkness. So darkness like in this pandemic is relatable because sometimes there are times that we are giving up. And in the last line, so he opens his throat to sing. So it means for me to express myself of what I am feeling about. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Sparrow. And we are now going to conclude this podcast. So, we first interpreted this poem with my own answer, which said that we are the caged birds. We then moved on to the owl's answer, which said that the author may have gone through discrimination, which is why she wrote this poem. And then we went through Raven's answer, which reminisced of those times and also related the caged bird to the type of a person that is an introvert. We then moved on to Robin's answer that separated the free bird and the caged bird and said that the free bird are those with a higher opportunity and the power to hold and to govern the people, while the poor people or the powerless are the caged birds. And then lastly, we had the sparrow that related the caged bird to himself. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this podcast, and may you find your wings to fly. Keep singing, my dear birds.